Have you ever looked into her eyes and felt something had changed, but every time you tried to explain it to yourself, you called yourself insecure? Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you may explain the pain you've been carrying in silence. Sometimes betrayal doesn't begin with lies, it begins with distance. And the scariest part? You feel it long before you can prove it. Before we go deeper, subscribe and like this video because these conversations are for people who want truth, not comforting illusions. I need you to hear me carefully. Women rarely disconnect all at once. It happens emotionally first, quietly, subtly, almost invisibly. And most men miss the signs because they're looking for obvious evidence, while female psychology often shifts in ways much harder to detect. The first unmistakable sign: her attention has changed. A woman who is emotionally invested notices everything about you: your mood, your stress, the small details you don't even say out loud. When she cares deeply, her attention rests on you naturally. But when another man begins occupying her emotional energy, even secretly, her attention starts leaking elsewhere. She stops asking about your day. She seems physically present but mentally far away. You talk, but she doesn't really engage. You feel like you're reaching for her and touching air. And no, I'm not talking about normal mood changes or busy days. I'm talking about a pattern. You can feel when someone stops leaning toward you, and women often emotionally shift before they ever physically leave. Men ignore this because they tell themselves she's stressed, she's tired, she just needs space. Maybe, but your instincts often notice what your mind tries to deny. Second sign: she suddenly becomes unusually protective of privacy. And listen carefully, because privacy and secrecy are not the same thing. Healthy privacy exists, but secrecy behaves differently. Her phone angles away, messages get deleted, simple questions make her defensive. She used to casually leave her phone around, now it never leaves her hand. She starts guarding ordinary things with extraordinary intensity. And many men make the mistake of focusing only on the phone. No, watch the energy. Secrecy creates tension, a nervousness, a vigilance, almost like she's managing information. And what hurts men the most is they often sense it, but they don't trust themselves enough to acknowledge it. Third sign: her affection becomes inconsistent. This one is deeply misunderstood, because sometimes she may still show affection, sometimes even more than usual. But it feels strange, unnatural, like performance instead of connection. Some women overcompensate when guilt appears. Others withdraw completely, hot and cold, close, then distant, warm one day, emotionally unavailable the next. And you start living confused, trying to decode moods, trying to earn back a version of her that used to come naturally. That confusion is emotional exhaustion. And many good men stay trapped there for years, because they keep believing if they love harder, the old connection will return. But real intimacy doesn't need to be chased, it flows. Here's what I need you to understand. When a woman's heart is anchored in a relationship, her energy stabilizes. When her emotions are divided, instability often follows. And most betrayal whispers before it screams. Not through dramatic evidence, through shifts, through patterns, through absences, through things that feel small until you connect them. And I need to say something difficult. Stop calling your intuition insecurity. Sometimes it's wisdom trying to protect you. You are not weak for noticing change. You are not paranoid for feeling distance. And if this is hitting something deep inside you, stay with me, because some of the next signs are even harder to face. And they reveal truths most men see too late. There's another sign men often ignore because it wounds the ego too much to admit. She becomes irritated by things she once loved about you. Read that again in your heart. The laugh she used to adore suddenly annoys her. Your texts feel too much. Your affection feels clingy. The same presence that once comforted her now seems to provoke her. That shift does not happen randomly, and I need you to understand female psychology here. When emotional investment moves elsewhere, a woman may begin unconsciously creating distance by turning ordinary things into problems. It can look like criticism, coldness, unexplained impatience. Everything you do starts feeling wrong, and you begin shrinking yourself trying to keep peace. talking less, questioning yourself, walking carefully. That is where many men lose themselves, because instead of asking why love feels harder, they start blaming themselves for the entire change. But often, the issue is not that you became less. It may be that her attention has moved, and when emotional guilt exists, criticism can become a defense. Because it's easier to justify distance when you can convince yourself your partner is the problem. That truth is painful, but necessary. Another sign. Her schedule suddenly becomes harder to understand. And I'm not talking about healthy independence. I'm talking about vagueness, patterns that stop making sense. More unexplained absences. More, I'm busy, without real clarity. Plans become uncertain. She used to make time. Now time feels negotiated. And pay attention here. People make time for what matters emotionally, always. Maybe not constantly, but consistently. That consistency tells stories words try to hide. When connection fades, availability often changes first. And what confuses men is she may still say loving things, still act normal at moments, still reassure you. But actions begin drifting from words. And actions always tell the deeper truth. If someone wants closeness, they move toward it, not away from it. And then comes one of the most overlooked signs. She becomes emotionally energized, but not with you. This one is subtle, dangerously subtle. She seems happier, more alive, more radiant, but somehow not in the relationship. Her mood improves in ways you're strangely excluded from. She glows, but you're not the reason. And men feel this before they understand it. Something feels off. Because joy shared creates intimacy, but joy hidden creates suspicion. You notice she lights up texting, smiles at her phone, seems emotionally stimulated somewhere you cannot access. And that unsettles you, as it should. Because emotional affairs often begin long before anything physical, and many people dismiss that. But emotional redirection changes relationships profoundly, sometimes before anyone says a word. Now, I want to tell you something very important. Don't confuse occasional stress or personal space with betrayal. That would be unfair. This is about repeated patterns, consistent emotional shifts, behavior changes that stack together. One sign alone means little, but patterns tell truth. And here is where many men break themselves. They sense these changes, but instead of observing clearly, they panic, they chase, they plead, they over-pursue. And desperation never restores respect. It often accelerates distance. I say this with care. If you have to beg for reassurance repeatedly, something is already unhealthy. Healthy love does not thrive in confusion. It doesn't feed on uncertainty. It doesn't keep one person emotionally starving. And maybe nobody ever told you this. Sometimes your pain is not coming from overthinking. It's coming from perceiving something real. And you keep trying to silence it. But intuition grows louder when ignored. In the next truths we uncover, I'm going to show you signs men almost always miss until it's too late. Signs hidden not in what she says, but in how she starts rewriting reality itself. And that changes everything. There's a sign that cuts deeper than silence, because it makes you question your own mind. She starts making you feel guilty for noticing what changed. This is where many men become emotionally trapped. You bring up distance. She says you're overthinking. You mention something feels off. She calls you insecure. You ask simple questions. Somehow you end up apologizing. Pay attention to that, because healthy love makes room for concerns. It doesn't punish you for having them. When someone consistently turns your intuition into a flaw, something dangerous can happen. You stop trusting yourself. And once a man stops trusting his own perception, he becomes easy to emotionally manipulate. That's why this sign is so serious, because the issue is no longer just distance, it's distortion. Reality starts bending. You feel hurt, but somehow you become the problem. And let me tell you something from female psychology many men never hear. When a woman is emotionally invested elsewhere, she may protect that reality by making your suspicions seem irrational. Not always maliciously, sometimes unconsciously, but the effect is the same. Confusion, self-doubt, emotional exhaustion. And you keep thinking, maybe I'm imagining this. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm ruining something good. Meanwhile, your spirit knows something your mind keeps negotiating away. That inner war can break a man. Another sign, she stops sharing her inner world with you. And this one is massive. Because intimacy is not built on physical closeness, it is built on emotional access. When a woman trusts you deeply, she reveals herself, her thoughts, her fears, random things from her day, things that seem small but mean everything. When that disappears, something important is shifting. Conversations become surface level, functional, transactional. You talk about errands, schedules, basics, but not souls, not dreams, not feelings. And slowly you realize you know less about what lives inside her than you used to. That should never be ignored, because emotional withdrawal often happens quietly. It doesn't announce itself. It fades. And many men stay focused on whether she still says, "I love you." But words can survive after emotional intimacy has weakened. Look deeper. Can she still be reached? Can she still be felt? Can you still enter her emotional world? Those questions matter. And now let's talk about a sign men often misread. She suddenly starts comparing you. Maybe directly, maybe subtly. Another man's ambition, another man's confidence, someone else's lifestyle, maybe even fictional standards online. And you start feeling measured, reduced, competing in a contest you never agreed to join. Listen closely. Admiration inspires, comparison erodes. One builds connection, the other breeds inadequacy. And when comparison enters repeatedly, respect may already be leaking. That is serious, because relationships struggle when admiration dies. And here's where I need to challenge you. Do not chase approval when respect starts being withdrawn. That path destroys self-worth. You do not win healthy love by auditioning for it. Remember that. And there's another subtle truth. Sometimes she starts picking fights over nothing. Tiny sparks become huge conflict. Why? Because conflict can create emotional distance without admitting the real reason. Arguments become exits. Tension becomes camouflage. And you sit there wondering, why does everything become a battle now? Sometimes because peace would require honesty, and honesty is harder. I know some of this hurts. Good. Truth often hurts before it frees. Because many men spend years ignoring signs they sensed in months. Not because they're weak, because they hope. And hope can blind people. But awareness protects you, not suspicion, awareness. There is a difference. And what I'm about to show you next may be the most chilling signs of all, because they're not about distance anymore, they're about emotional replacement. And if you felt something slipping away, you need to hear what comes next. Now we reach the signs men feel in their gut, but often refuse to name. She starts protecting her independence in a strangely defensive way. Let me explain. A healthy woman can value space and still make you feel secure. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when every act of closeness suddenly feels like control to her. Simple questions feel like interrogation. Normal relationship expectations get framed as pressure. Basic accountability becomes, "You're too demanding." And slowly commitment starts being spoken about like a burden. That shift matters. Because when emotional loyalty weakens, even ordinary relationship bonds can start feeling restrictive. And many men react by chasing harder. More calls, more explanations, more proving. But pressure never repairs emotional drift. It usually exposes it. And I need you to hear this. If wanting clarity in a relationship is constantly made to seem unreasonable, pay attention. Because sometimes the issue isn't your need for reassurance, it's her resistance to transparency. Another sign, her stories stop lining up. Not dramatic lies, small inconsistencies, tiny cracks, details that change, explanations that feel slippery, things that don't quite hold together. And this is where many men betray themselves. They notice contradictions, then rush to invent explanations to avoid discomfort. Don't do that. Confusion often survives because people explain away what they clearly perceive. Trust repeated patterns, Not isolated excuses, patterns, always patterns. And now let's talk about something very painful. She stops making you feel chosen. That one lands deep, because love is not merely being tolerated, it is feeling selected, wanted, preferred. When a woman is emotionally present, you feel chosen in 1,000 quiet ways. Her energy says it, her effort says it, her presence says it. But when that disappears, you begin feeling like an option, like you're standing beside someone whose heart is elsewhere. And that emptiness is brutal. Because humans can survive conflict easier than indifference. Indifference cuts colder. You can feel when someone stops reaching for you emotionally, and many men keep trying to earn back what should never require begging. Listen carefully. Real love does not make you constantly compete for emotional crumbs. And then comes one of the strongest signs. Her respect starts fading. This is bigger than romance. Respect is the spine of love. Without it, everything collapses. Maybe she mocks you more, dismisses you, talks down to you, minimizes your feelings, rolls her eyes at vulnerability, makes you feel small. And men often endure this quietly because they fear losing the relationship. But losing yourself to keep a relationship is a deeper loss. Never forget that. A woman emotionally invested in you may disagree with you, challenge you, even frustrate you, but she does not consistently diminish you. That is different. And I want to tell you something uncomfortable. Sometimes another man isn't even the core issue. Sometimes the deeper truth is emotional detachment. And men obsess over whether there is someone else, when the real crisis is she has already mentally stepped out. That's harder to face, but truer. Because the greatest betrayal is not always another person. Sometimes it's staying where love has quietly left. That realization wakes people up. And maybe right now something inside you is connecting dots. Moments you dismissed, feelings you buried, patterns you explained away. Good, because awareness is beginning. But what comes next is where most men finally recognize the truth they were avoiding. Because the final signs are not subtle. They reveal whether a woman's heart is truly somewhere else. And once you see them, you can never unsee them. There is a moment many men remember long after the relationship ends. The moment they realized she was with them, but no longer for them. And the next sign reveals that with painful clarity. She stops fighting for the relationship. Read that carefully. Not every disagreement means danger. Conflict can exist in healthy love. But effort? Effort tells the truth. When a woman values the bond, she works through tension. She repairs. She reaches back. She doesn't let distance grow without concern. But when emotional investment fades, apathy often replaces effort. Problems stay unresolved. Disconnection is ignored. Your pain no longer moves her the same. And suddenly you're the only one carrying the emotional weight. The only one initiating hard conversations. The only one trying to save what two people built. That loneliness inside a relationship is devastating, because being alone by yourself hurts less than feeling alone beside someone. And many men stay because they keep remembering who she used to be. But relationships live in the present, not memory. Don't love potential so much that you ignore reality. Another unmistakable sign. She reacts strangely when other men are mentioned. Watch this closely. Sometimes she becomes overly dismissive, too quick to explain, too quick to downplay. Sometimes defensive in ways the situation doesn't call for. And sometimes she speaks about another man with a spark she no longer brings to you. Admiration has energy. Interest has energy. You can feel it. And often your nervous system catches these things before logic does. That discomfort you struggle to explain? Sometimes it's perception. And I want to be careful here. This is not about becoming suspicious of every male friend or harmless interaction. That would be insecurity. We are talking about repeated emotional signals, patterns, always patterns. And now we reach a sign many men fear most. Your presence stops affecting her. This one is heavy. Because when a woman is emotionally connected, you matter in the room. Your arrival shifts something. Your absence is felt. Your attention means something. But when emotional detachment grows, your presence can start feeling neutral to her, flat, almost interchangeable. And if you've ever loved deeply, you know how cold that feels. To stand beside someone you adore and feel emotionally invisible. That pain can hollow a man. And here is where many make a tragic mistake. They perform harder, buy more, prove more, become someone else, trying to reactivate what faded. But love cannot be negotiated through self-abandonment. Please hear me. If someone only values you when you overextend yourself, that is not devotion, that is depletion. And now the hardest truth. Sometimes she may not even consciously realize she has shifted. People can emotionally leave before they admit it to themselves. That's why signs matter. Because behavior often confesses before words do. And if multiple signs we've discussed keep appearing, don't ignore what reality may be showing you, not to become bitter, but to become clear. Because clarity protects dignity, and dignity matters, more than chasing someone whose heart may be wandering. Now, the final truth in this conversation is not about signs. It's about what a strong man does when he sees them, and almost nobody teaches men this. Because the last section is not about her anymore, it's about you. And it may be the part that changes your life most. Now I need you to hear me woman to man, because this may be the most important thing I say. If you recognize several of these signs, do not panic, do not explode, do not become a detective, do not destroy your peace chasing certainty. Power begins in composure. Most men, when they sense betrayal or emotional drift, react from fear. They confront in anger, beg for reassurance, monitor everything, lose themselves trying to hold on. And in doing so, they often hand away their dignity. Don't do that. A strong man does something different. He observes, he listens, he becomes honest with himself. Because truth does not become less true when avoided. And here's what many men never understand. Your greatest power is not forcing someone to choose you. It is refusing to abandon yourself when someone stops choosing you. That changes everything. If her energy has shifted, let reality reveal itself. Don't chase what withdraws, watch what reciprocates. That alone will save you years. And I need to say something many men need permission to hear. If a woman's loyalty feels consistently uncertain, you are allowed to step back. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to stop proving your worth. Love should not feel like emotional survival. It should feel like growth, safety, mutual effort. And if that's absent, honesty matters more than denial. Now listen carefully. Sometimes men focus so much on whether she may be seeing someone else, they miss the deeper question. Is this relationship still honoring me? That question is bigger. Because even without another person involved, chronic disrespect, emotional neglect, and disappearing intimacy can still destroy you. And you must take that seriously. Never measure a relationship only by whether she stays. Measure it by how it shapes your spirit. Does it strengthen you or slowly diminish you? That matters. And I want to tell you something women deeply understand but many men ignore. Self-respect is magnetic. Desperation is not. The man who remains grounded, who does not beg for what should be freely given, who can face painful truth without collapsing, that man carries quiet power. Become that man. Not for her, for you. Because no betrayal hurts as much as betraying yourself to keep someone. Remember that. And if she is faithful, present, and these signs were fears more than facts, good. Then let this video sharpen your awareness, not poison your trust. Use wisdom, not paranoia. Healthy love needs trust, but trust should never require blindness. There is a difference. And if your heart has been aching while hearing this, let me leave you with this. The right woman does not make you feel chronically confused. She does not make you beg for emotional certainty. She does not leave you starving while calling it love. Real connection may have challenges, but it does not keep your soul in constant doubt. And maybe this is what you needed to hear today. If someone is drifting from you, that does not reduce your worth. It reveals their distance, not your deficiency. Do not let rejection rewrite your value. Stand up in your dignity, see clearly, love wisely, and never ignore what your spirit keeps trying to tell you. Because sometimes the signs you fear seeing are the very signs meant to set you free. If this reached you deeply, subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments which sign hit you hardest, because your story may help another man wake up too.